Okay, welcome everybody, and thank you for joining us this evening. We've got Bob Guerrera is going to host this meeting for you, and he's been a treasurer up at the Pigeon Forge Club for quite a while. And he's, Bob and I are good friends, so I'm going to tease him a little bit. I think he's one of these strict treasurers. Are you a strict treasurer, Bob?
Yes. Yeah, it's what the CPA stand for, cheapest person alive. So, you know, the money's mine until I decide what I want to do with it.
So just remember that as Bob goes through his presentation.
Yeah,
I haven't heard it.
Yeah.
He's a lot of fun, and he's our credentials chair at the district level, and he's helped us with conferences before, and he's been around the block. And I know a lot of you probably have been treasurer. Who's been treasurer for a long time? Raise your hand. Well, not too many, so that's good. So
how many first timers do we have? Raise your hands.
First timers.
Okay, cool.
So on these Zoom meetings, you know, we're going to mute everybody, but you can unmute yourself if you need to ask a question. So I hope everybody knows how to do that. At the bottom, there is this little reaction button, and if you press it, you can see this little hand, and you can put your hand up if you need to say something, and it'll, hopefully somebody will see you.
You can literally do this, and I'll try to watch for you.
Okay, and there's a chat box at the bottom if you want to get a question in for later or something, and just go ahead and place it there, and Ed is monitoring that too. At the end, we're going to do a quick poll, just really quick. We don't know how people like these virtual meetings, and of course we had to do them this year, but in the future we're typically in-person kind of place. So we'll see how you like it. And thank you again, and I'm going to turn it over to Guerrera. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, thank you. This is something new for me for Zoom. I personally like to have these meetings with everybody, get to know them, and it's a little more comfortable, but we're going to do the best that we can here. And what I'm going to try to do is teach you everything you need to know about being the club treasurer. Now, there's a couple of different things from the club level and from the district level. Now, Jennifer Campbell, our district treasurer, as you heard before, is with us. And Jennifer is going to help me out on some of these things, but I wanted to talk a little bit to start out with from a district level, real important things to do. Pay your dues. District dues, Rotary International dues are due twice a year. Get the dues in. You'll get an email or a notification on your dues and an invoice based on how many people you have in your club. Another real important thing, and a lot of people don't think about this, is you need to prepare a tax return. Now, I don't remember what the number is. Jennifer, what's the number? 990? 990. It's due November, okay? You need to have that done. When I became treasurer 19 years ago, I've been doing this for 19 years, we weren't doing tax returns. It wasn't that much of a requirement, but Rotary really got on us about doing a return. So I went and got a federal ID number. How many of you have federal ID numbers for tax returns and so forth? All right, cool. Well, anyway, it's important that you do your 990. Now, I got some information, and I printed a few things off from some of the books and some of the manuals. The Treasurer's Manual is, if you Google Rotary Treasurer Manual, a 36-page manual will pop up. You may have a hard copy of it. If you don't, download it on your computer. It'll give you all kinds of information. Now, on this one page, it talked about club treasurer job description. And what they say is, before you take office, You review all your procedures with your outgoing treasurer, review the club's financial history to determine its likely income and expenses. Basically, look at the budget that you had from last year because you're going to be preparing one this year too. Receive funds, accounting records, and any related materials from your outgoing treasurer. Hopefully, your outgoing treasurer is a good person and is going to help you out. Some of them, you know, they're gone. When I took over, our treasurer quit, and I took over right in the middle of a year, the way it is. Luckily, I had a little bit of accounting background, so I was good. But your outgoing treasurer is going to be your best friend for a while. Get as much information you can out of them. Ask them questions, get reports, get them to give you anything you want, and have them sit with you for a while you're collecting lunch or collecting dues, whatever you're going to do. Now, during the year, you're going to maintain club financial and historical records, work with the club secretary, collect dues, manage projects. That's all pretty good. Now, what's important to be a treasurer is got to do yourself a budget. I use QuickBooks. I've done a budget since the beginning. It helps me out so much. I record all my checks. I record payments, expenses. I do my invoices. Everything comes out of QuickBooks, and the budget is very important. Now, depending on your calendar year, Pigeon Forge's calendar year runs from January through December. And the reason why we do that is because we have the craft fair in October. I don't know how much money is going to be coming in or what we've got to work on until after the craft fair. So when I joined the club, the budget was January, December. We just kind of left it that way. Not a big deal. It's important to keep that budget up to date. Now, one thing that's important too is, and something that you have to do is, you have to make sure you're compliant with Rotary, with the district, with Rotary. Every year, our district governor has a new set of requirements that he wants for awards and so forth and so on. And it's up to you to make sure that you're compliant with some of those requirements. For example, Polio Plus, $40. I think last year we had it at $50. So it depends on whatever district governor wants. You got to get those in, and you get them in on time before the district conference, and then you'll be in good shape with the Polio Plus person. Your Paul Harris's. Now we collect money for Paul Harris when we collect our dues. Dues are another one that's important. You get your invoices out for your dues. What we do is we add the Paul Harris to the dues, and then I split that out. I get that in. And everything about the club treasurer has to do with your timing. Get your monies in, get your reports, get your whatever information you're going to supply on time. That's important. I have an assistant right now that helps me out. When you take over as treasurer, I'm kind of going by right now, like everybody's starting new July 1st. Some of you have already been in it, so you kind of know what I'm talking about. But when you become treasurer, before that, you got to get yourself to the bank and get yourself on the signature cards, because you have to have signature to sign checks. Now, I have two people that have signature authority right now. We don't require two people to sign a check. We only need one. It all depends on what your requirements are. Jennifer, what does Rotary say about check signing? And you need more than one signature, or
Yeah.
is one good?
Rotary International requires 2 signatures on every disbursement of funds. And I will say, I do that as district governor, but many clubs only get 1 signature. And, you know, the checking account will work, the bank will take the check with just 1 signature on it. But to protect yourself as treasurer, having that second signature on there keeps anybody from saying, hey, you took that money and did something weird with it. It's like, well, I had somebody else sign it as well. So it really protects the treasurer to have that second signature, and it protects the club's money.
Yeah, you can do it that way. You can go and a check greater than $500 can get 2 signatures. The reason why I only had 1 signature is I had a lot of problems getting the second person to sign checks. So, what we started doing was I'd get them to sign a bunch of blank checks, and then I had the other signature. Well, what good is that? So, that didn't do me any good, but it helped me from trying to hunt them down to get a second signature. So that's kind of the way that goes. Now, something that I do, and I think this is important, and I do it because of an accounting and just because I don't like to keep a lot of money in the checking account. I have 2 accounts. I've got like a money market or a savings account, whatever you want to call it, and I've got a checking account. All the money, the big money, is in that savings account. Our craft fair, it brings in a lot of money, and that's where we put the deposits, basically a savings account. I've set up in online banking where when I need money to write checks, I'll transfer money into the checking account and write the checks. I don't keep a lot of money in that checking account. So that's an option for you. Another thing that I find works for me, and I use this for QuickBooks, I use classes. So for example, and I keep going back to our craft fair because that's our only fundraiser, and it works pretty well. But what I've done is I've classed the craft fair. So any expenses, any income, any things that come out of the craft fair, class to craft fair. And then I can run a P&L, or I can run something and I can see exactly what monies came in and out of the craft fair. For any of your fundraisers, you might want to do that. That's just a thought. It's just an option.
Bob, there was a question in the chat about the 990s.
Yeah.
Do the treasurers prepare those themselves, or do you have a CPA do it, or what's a good practice?
Well, if you're capable or qualified to prepare one of those returns, you can go ahead and do it. There's nothing that says a CPA has to do it. I'm lucky enough that I have a wife that's a CPA. So I get her to do the tax return for me. And what works out really nice is she'll ask me, give me your balance sheet, give me your P&L, and the tax return is, the tax return has to be prepared on the Rotary calendar year, so I have to run it from July 1st to June 30th. So I give her the P&L, the balance sheet, whatever else she asks for, she prepares it. It's not a big deal, and it's not a real big return. Right, Beth? Right, Jennifer?
It depends on how complex your particular finances are.
Yeah.
At the district level, I used to be able to do the 990 easy. It's very simple. Then we got more complex and got more money, and I went over the limit and had to start doing the full 990 report. It can get pretty hairy, but most clubs probably just do the easy. And then
I unmuted myself. I'm Sarah Lodge. I'm a CFO now at a nonprofit, but we have a complicated 990. I mean, it's huge. It's pages long. Is there an easy 990?
Well, it has to be under a certain amount, and I don't really know what that amount is right now. We can look that up for you, Sarah.
Oh, I mean, I can figure it out. It just, I've never, I mean, our accountant does this, the 990, not for our Rotary.
It's based on what your gross receipts are,
Yeah.
what level you are, just like the 1040 easy, then 1040.
Okay, I've never done the easy part, and it just makes me nervous. Thinking about filling out a 990 makes me want to jump off a cliff. I'm just saying, you know, it's not an easy thing.
Well,
But
you have to, I guess the way I would say it is you have to make sure that it is prepared by somebody.
And talk to your treasurer from last year, who prepared it last year, and look at it and see, is it pretty simple or was it?
yeah, I can do that. It just would have hit me. Yeah. Okay.
There was
The
another
sma-
question.
the smaller the club, the smaller usually the receipts, you know, and
I mean, are
they
there
can do
many
your
of us
postcard.
CPAs? Are many of us on this call CPAs? I'm not a CPA.
I am.
Previous
I'm
company
just-
y'all are. I mean, I kind of pretend to be one sometimes, but I'm not.
There was another question that I think Janet Johnson asked. Why is the treasurer responsibility to manage Polio Plus compliance?
Well, here's the thing, here's Polio Plus. Rotary, or is it our district? I can't remember exactly how things are going. We have been tasked to give a $40 contribution per member in order to get the Polio Plus award for the district, okay? Therefore, I either have to collect $40 from everybody, which means I need to bill them, send them an invoice, get them to pay, or we just stuck it in our budget and we pay it. So that's what the treasurer being responsible or having to deal with the Polio Plus monies have to do with that.
Yeah, in my club, the foundation chair would be the one chasing people and making sure they paid. We'd work with the treasurer, but foundation chair in my club.
And Bob, we're asking people to go to $50 this year because, you know,
$50.
3 years ago, the Gates Foundation increased their, you know, their match. They used to match us 2 to 1 based upon us raising $35 million, and they would put in $70 million. And that got increased. If we gave 50, they would put 100 million in. So even though that has been around now, I think this will be the 3rd year coming up, we had not really increased that amount. So we're asking people to step forward to meet that challenge, because we are, after all, pretty historically tied into Polio Plus for many, many years now, and something that our district has done really well with.
There you have it. You know, as far as everything goes, I think it's pretty straightforward. Be compliant. When your invoices come in from Rotary, pay them. You know, keep your budget. What I do is the budget may change every year depending on either how much money we bring in or what we decide to work on. And you don't want everybody coming up to you and go, hey, can you add $50 to my, you know, my budget, blah, blah, blah. I get everything in writing. And then I'll present it to the board and we'll decide if we want to increase their funding. Now, another thing that I've done, and it's just my own personal preference. How many of you use QuickBooks or are familiar with QuickBooks or anything like that? What do you use for your budget, for your accounting, or, you know, to keep track of your funds and stuff?
I'm using DAC-DB and trying to make DAC-DB for everything as much as I can.
Okay. Okay. Well, anyway, what I've done is I've broken down on the budget. I've broken down my categories. For example, we'll do some local things, and in local I'll have local projects. I'll have some school stuff, scholarships, international. I've got that broken down, and it's broken down by committee. And the committee members are basically in charge of their funds. You know, once you go through there and your international chair says, you know, I like $4,000 or $6,000 for international, he gets it. So during the course of the year, he'll come and say, you know, Ron's looking for money for Heart to Heart. And we go, how much do you want? And he says, well, give me $2,000. I'm not going to ask him, or we don't have to then grill him on what he's using the money for. The money's been budgeted and approved. That's his money. And, you know, let his committee figure out what they want to spend. It'll take a lot off of you. Now, if they come up with a special request, then I guess it has to go to committee. It has to go and get approved and so forth. But approved monies, we put $1,000 just in something called local projects. Our committee chair might come and say, the library wants a couple of bicycles and it's going to cost, you know, $220. Well, you take it out of that $1,000 and here's your check. And now you've got $800 and $780 left, whatever that is. So, you know, be strict with your budget, get it all in order, get it approved. But once it's approved, that money's theirs, and you know, let them run their committees. You know, I always say that Rotary is more than just going to lunch. So make them sit in their committees, and if they want to spend that money, they've got to come up with reasons or you know, projects to spend that with. That'd be part of your budget. And
Hey, Bob,
yeah.
Can we say a little bit more about that? Because I think that's, I hear you saying is that you're not telling them what to spend their money on. And I
No.
think some treasurers do.
Oh, okay.
So
Let's
somehow-
go.
How do you all do
All right.
the process of coming up with the budget?
What we'll do is we'll take certain pieces of the budget, say, and we'll start out with club operations. Now, part of club operations is postage, materials, guest lunches. We do a scholarship luncheon where we give out all the scholarships that we do. We do 19 scholarships and so forth. And during that luncheon, the students bring all their parents and friends and whatever. Well, we're not going to say, hey, give me, you know, $12 for your lunch. We pay for it. It's got to come out of somewhere. Comes out of this guest lunch, is part of club operations. So you're a little flexible as far as that goes. I also have a category that I use for Rotary education. Now, in the Rotary education, that is money put aside for district conference, the international convention. Will pay an amount of money to the president-elect if they want to go to the conference. We put some money aside. We've put money aside for Rotary education. If we have somebody that's getting into the district leadership or going to a training session, we put money aside for that. So it's lumped into some of those fields. So when a bill comes and it needs to be paid, we don't have to go and ask or go and see where the money is. We know exactly where it is. The schools, we give out money for the schools. The big one is the craft fair. So the craft fair is a good example. As part of the craft fair, it costs a bunch of money to keep that tent going, to pay for we pay for the licenses for each of the crafters as part of their rent. We have a concession for that, and we have to pay for the food that comes in. We pay for advertising, we pay for marketing. So if there's $2,000 in there for, say, craft fair marketing, we'll get a bill and they'll say, this is for the craft fair. Okay, I'll pay it out of that. It doesn't have to be through committee. The dictionary project, we put money for that. We have that dictionary project. I know a lot of clubs have it. 3rd grade, everybody gets a dictionary. We do that. So when the bill comes, I know where to get the money from. It's been budgeted, it's been approved, and we don't have to worry about where it's coming